Welcome to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Eric.
I am Lucas.
Eric and Lucas are licensed professional counselors. We have created an online community with a website and an app full of parenting resources and courses. Most importantly, all of this is centered around a private community where you can share your struggles with us and others. If you are interested in joining, please check out our website at empoweringchoices.community or search for our app in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. For a small monthly fee, you receive everything I talked about and you help support the show. Plus, every time someone purchases a membership, we gift a membership on your behalf to someone who otherwise could not afford it. All right, now on with today's show.
We're talking about self-care.
So you have on here that self-care is similar to car maintenance, but I don't have any windshield washer fluid, and I don't know how often to change my oil.
Oh, well, that's good because both of them wouldn't work well in your body.
That's true.
I could tell you about every 1 million miles, get an oil check, but they're going to look at you weird when you just walk in and say, I need one.
They'd say, I know where the dipstick is, and I'm talking to him.
Self-care in the similarity is we have to be able to do things that help take care of ourselves, that help us release the stress and the pressures of the day, of the week, of the month, of the things that we're going through. And you honestly want to have a routine of what do those things look like for me, because what it is for me is not going to be necessarily the same thing for you, Lucas, and not necessarily the same thing for you, Josh.
Yeah.
And definitely, not the same thing for anybody else on the planet.
And we're going to have, because this is our parenting material, right?
Right.
This sounds like something that any human being could listen to, but then we're going to have to figure out wait, what does this mean specifically to parents?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is, maybe one or two pressures that parents go through in a given day.
What would those be? I can't imagine what you're possibly talking about.
Feed me, spend time with me, play with me.
That's the dog talking. Right?
Wipe my nose. Well,
dog.
This is a whole different show if Indy starts saying that, So we better keep the recording going because we just got rich and famous on a talking dog. What do you think about this, Mommy? Why is the sky blue, Daddy? And in teenagers, it looks completely different.
Give me money.
Give me money.
Human ATM.
Well, but it starts out like this.
Yeah.
I found this great video on YouTube. Let me tell you where I found it. Let me tell you all about it. Let me tell you what it is. And then let me show it to you. And if you want me to go away, give me money.
That works. That's a good idea.
And we're just kidding, but because there are other, much more sophisticated pieces developmentally, as we've talked about in some of our classes, for each of the different age groups, and the point is you cannot spend all of your time simply completely caring for your kids and not yourself, because it's like trying to water plants without going back and putting more water in the watering pot.
You'll run dry.
And I was talking about this with a parent, and the parent was telling me, when I cook, that is, some of my recharge time. I listen to my music, I cook. The problem in my family is I have a husband and 4 kids, and they all want to come and talk
while I'm cooking. Because you're not doing anything else. You can talk while you're stirring the beans or whatever it is that you're doing.
I think that's kind of what the husband said.
Right.
And so I'll help by talking with
right.
you. And it's no, you don't understand. I need this time to recharge. Mm-hmm. And we're at the moment we are recording this, still during the coronavirus pandemic. So a lot of recharge time for parents who were at home with their kids is naturally kids are at school.
Oh, right.
Kids are not at school right now.
Right, and so does that it burns the batteries out faster.
Exactly. And now they're like, how do I do this? Where do I get this? I mean, I'm trying to get my kids to bed, and then suddenly they're stalling. And it's like when they go to bed, I have at least a moment to be able to exhale. And yet now they're stalling. and there's
Right.
4 of them.
And I'm about to do something terrible and horrible and launch one of them out of a window.
And then, there are some good self-care coping skills that some of the parents I work with, have in how they are like going, you love this child. You do not hurt this child. You love this child.
Right.
You do not know. We love this child. Oh, I love my spouse. No, I'm not going to hit them with a spoon. I love them.
Right.
Self-care's got to be a part that's in there that allows us to be able to, release those emotions, or they're going to slosh over. It's just the way it works as a human being.
So how am I going to know when I need to do self-care?
That's a great question.
I've been accused of that before.
Okay. So one thing is, why wait till then? Mm-hmm. One particular mom I know, when her husband gets to the point where, all of his emotions are just kind of, pouring out of his pores, she just looks at him and says, you go golf now.
Go golf as a command.
Yes.
Go golf.
It's not an option. It's like, get out, get on the course, and shake those emotions out through beating that ball around the green. And it works. It's a really good self-care piece for him. And that's kind of, as Americans, how we use that. We wait until it's at, overload, and then we're trying to find a way to release it. And I'm like, okay, if you think about that in the way of operating a dam, you're going to have a lot of spillovers quite often, and towns are wiped out, But if you regularly have spillway openings according to the water that's coming in at the time and adjust it, then you've got a much better opportunity to be able to keep that stress down, at an optimal level.
So you're talking about like regular maintenance, but then also checking in and seeing what is the current status of my life. Do I need to alter things?
Right.
Because you could be on a rigid maintenance schedule that's not actually meeting the needs of what's happening.
Right. And you could have something, maybe something at work hits, and the things you're regularly putting in there just aren't doing it. Now you've got to kind of go to the back vault of, okay, when I'm at a more overloaded thing, what are the things that really, really help me open my own spillway even bigger? And you have to, knowing self-care and knowing what self-care is and utilizing it means that you have to know yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to know what works good with you. And I know right there, some people went, well, that's it. I'm done. I don't know who I am. And to that, in session, I will say, okay, wait, let's stop. What foods do you not like? Mm-hmm. And we'll go that basic. And if they're like, I don't know, I'm like, okay, fine. Do you like lima beans?
No.
Josh knows the answer to that question.
No.
Yes. Now I'm actually finding more and more people that like lima beans.
You're actually flabbergasted by this.
I stop and I'm like, great, I know where to send mine. Because these are horrid things that do not work for me whatsoever. But I'm like, okay, look, you identified, we'll just say lima beans. You identified you don't like lima beans, so you do know something about yourself. Mm-hmm. Now tell me what your favorite food is. Mm-hmm. And then people will kind of rattle off some different things. I'm like, okay, there's more things you do know about yourself. Now, tell me something you enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. Well, I like to watch TV. Oh, okay. All right.
It's a start.
So it's a start, but tell me more about that. Because, one of the things that I have, in my own vault is that, if I'm really, really, really stressed, I might pull out some sitcom comedies or comedy movies. 50 First Dates. I cannot laugh enough when it comes to the place where Adam Sandler is getting his friend involved and Drew Barrymore just kind of takes over because, it's in the scenario. Adam's friend is kind of beating him up on the ground and she comes out of the car with a baseball bat and just goes to town on his friend. I cannot laugh enough. It is just the way they did it.
That's a funny movie.
It is, even where, she's chasing him down over the next hill and Adam's like, okay, that's enough. And she just pops her head up and she goes, no, not yet. and so that is a movie that I have in there, that is a reserve.
And that's a lot more of an evocative description than I like watching TV.
Exactly. Because you've got to have those pieces of the TV that it's like, no, give me something that really does something for you, that alters and changes your mood, that allows you to feel better when you're done, and that's your starting point. The Big Bang Theory. I'm huge with that one. I love that show. And so that's another one that I would go to. And so does going for a walk help a person? Does, taking a bubble bath help a person? Does favorite candles, help a person? With women, they have a heightened sense of smell. Candles, tastes, these become very powerful components and coping skills. And so music is another one that, how does this help you? How does this work with you? I had a supervisor years and years and years ago, and if she was out front of the facility and she was cleaning her car and washing her car to heavy metal music.
At work.
At work.
Okay.
She was a director. At work. You left her alone. And we're talking, Kiss was going, Motley Crue, and it's like, okay, she's had a bad day. And that's her self-care, and so you have to know yourself and you have to know what are the different things that help you. And then you have to be able to interweave these into your daily life, because that's my big piece is have these as a regular scheduled piece that you go to. Kind of like, so car maintenance, it's technically supposed to be a regular scheduled thing that we go to, that we do this to maintain the car. I'm not suggesting that you wait 100,000 miles to, take the next bubble bath, but I am suggesting put it in the routine and know how to do that. And some of the things that I've gotten from parents is I feel mean. I feel bad about telling my kids, you can't talk to me right now. I love them. And I'm like, yes, you do. And what I try to explain is what you have to do is you have to flip the reasoning. Okay. And here's what I mean. When your kids were toddlers and in that age range, and they realized that when you turn the stove on, it turns different colors on the burner, and they wanted to touch it, you didn't let them. And that's because you knew more than they did, and you knew that wasn't good for them.
That wasn't a pretty fairy.
It wasn't something that you wanted them to experience and that they needed to experience. When you're taking care of yourself, you're not only showing self-love, but you're role modeling to them. Hey, as a parent, because someday you guys may be a parent, but even if you're not a parent, someday you will be an adult, because every child becomes an adult.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, you may not act like it, but you at least have the body of it. And so when you're an adult in whatever arena you're in, for whoever is in your life, you need to understand that you've got to take care of yourself, and self-love is not mean.
And telling other people no is not inherently mean either.
It's not. It's drawing a boundary that is actually showing them, okay, people need boundaries to be able to take care of themselves, because then you can come out of that and you have actually better time with your kids. Versus just trying to push forward, dredge forward, force your way through it. One parent told me my daughter wanted to play Chutes and Ladders, and it was the most horrid game I'd ever played in my life. I couldn't wait till it was done.
And I'm guessing that wasn't because she hated the game.
No.
On its face.
No, it was more about I wasn't in a place where a game was something that I could really enjoy with my daughter, even though my daughter needed that. But she hadn't had the ability to vent out her own life stresses, and then be more able to kind of take on, how do I spend time that my kids will love, you know? And this is why this is such an important piece, is you got to know, you got to be able to identify, and then you have to have the permission and the freedom from yourself to be able to say, this is mommy time, this is daddy time, this is mommy and daddy time, you know, and what are the boundaries that this is going to look like, you know, and sometimes that is, okay, I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking, you guys need to go find something to do. And then you naturally get I don't have anything to do. Well, you need to go play with your toys. Well, I've already played with them.
It's okay. The toilet needs cleaning.
And that's what my parents would do. They're like, okay, look, if all those toys that we got you, because a part of kids going off to spend time with themselves, going off to be able to, you know, what looks like just gives you space, but it also helps them cultivate and initiate their own imaginative play skills.
Their own ability to do those things that they enjoy doing.
Yep. It took me a while before I understood as a child that, okay, you gave me this toy, I played with it, and now the toy is done. I played it out.
Right. I've done all of the possible things you could possibly do with this toy, or so you believed.
Well, but my thinking was black and white. And so I didn't understand. I still remember kind of realizing, wait, I walk back in and I can pick up the robot and, oh, wait, oh, wow, we're on Mars. Whereas yesterday we were at the Mojave Desert, you know, and Mars just opened up and we could do all these things. And so children begin to learn, you know, that every play moment can be different. And they learn new ways of being able to entertain themselves. So you've got dual skills learning that is going on while you're taking self-care and you're teaching them what that means. Then they're going off on their own and they're learning how it is that you begin to engage yourself within the world. One person once told me that, you know, they would... one day, you know, they were in that situation and they just decided, hey, I'm going to teach myself how to write with my left hand.
That was their, wow, that sounds like a lot of work for something that you're doing in your downtime.
That was their way of engaging, you know, and then they made that fun.
Although admittedly, some people would probably look at all of our hobbies and go, boy, that looks like a lot of work too.
And they might look at it and go, wow, that's dumb.
Sure, or it's just that's dumb.
And that's okay. You know, I remember when I was in high school and one of the first jobs I had was at Bressler's 33 Flavors, and it was downtime because it was either you had a ton of people coming in to get the ice cream or you had no one. And I had cleaned everything, swept everything, wiped everything. I was just sitting there bored out of my mind. And I'm like, what can I possibly do? And I went... I could teach myself how to scoop ice cream with my left hand. And so I did. I just was going around like, how does this work? And you know, this hand to this hand. And pretty soon I got pretty good with that. And so when the crowds came in and there's more workers in there, and if a worker is right next to me and I can't, you know, get the ice cream, then I switch it to the other hand and I go.
There you go.
And then people are like looking at that and they're going, you're ambidextrous. You know,
and you're like, not really, but
not really. Yeah, I was just bored one day,
and they're just looking at you like you're nuts.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, how did that work? You know, and then it's a whole conversation. You know, and so those times when your kids are going to have the opportunities to be able to fan out their own and imaginative skills, they can actually lead to other things down the road. So where we think we're being mean, we're actually helping them to grow on a multitude of levels.
So you're saying that taking time for yourself as self-care is a good opportunity for your kids to be flexing their own muscles that they need as well.
Yep.
So it's like I don't know how many birds with one stone that is, but.
Well, and you know, like myself, I was not really interested in going and learning these skills.
It's okay. It was good for you.
It was, but at that moment I was like, I'm bored. You're my parents. Entertain me. You're my playmate. You're my parent. We need to do this. And my parent was like, no, I'm your parent. And as your parent, I'm sending you to go learn how to play by yourself. And since we see you don't really want to, we could probably come up with some chores you would really not enjoy, but it would keep you busy and we still get our self-care.
Right. Oh, and like, were you actually to engage in those chores, those would be good for you also? Like, I mean, you probably never did, but were you to, that would also be a good thing.
Well, I sat there and went, I know my parents mean what they say and say what they mean. And there is no way I'm spending the next hour scrubbing the toilet or any other chore they could come up with, because it will be the ones I hate. And I'm like, I'm good. And I went to my room.
Sure. You figured it out.
I figured it out. And sometimes that's kind of a part of that little push that you need to have there with your kids, but you've got to be consistent. You have to follow through with that, because, and that means that the parent has to see their own self-care as a vitally important piece in their own day and in their own well-being. Because if you, lots of parents come and say how drained they are. Lots of times I say, what kind of hobbies and interests do you have?
And they look at you blankly
and go, you mean like crocheting?
Yes, that actually is a viable option. Is that something that you like to do?
And everybody picks the one they hate.
The example that they give you.
Right. It's almost like a diet, in a diet. I had people that talked to me one time and they were doing a diet and they were kind of, you read the person's body language and it's not like they were enjoying the diet. And of course, it's a diet and it kind of comes with that, well, you're really not supposed to enjoy it, is kind of the shadow it comes in.
Yeah.
And as I talked longer with them, I found out that on the diet was salmon. I'm down with salmon.
You're like, that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. That's not a bad diet I'm going to have a problem with. But this particular person hated salmon.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, that had to have been a horrible experience.
It'd be like you and lima beans.
Exactly. And they're like, I just go hungry. That'd be my new diet. And what they said was, well, I got through it. I choked it down. I made it. And that was I'm like, why? Because it's a part of the diet. But you can't just switch it out for something.
Right. I'm sure there was something else in the diet that you probably would have preferred. Like tuna. I mean, I don't know.
It couldn't have just been a salmon only diet.
Right.
Only salmon all the time.
Exactly. My wife introduced brown rice one time and that was going to be a part of, our eating better. And so, I tried it, and she said, well, how do you like the brown rice? And my reply was, there is not enough soy sauce in all of China to make that taste good. And she's like, okay. So tomorrow we're going to have brown rice. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Got put right up there next to the lima beans.
Right. It's like, no, for me, no, this won't be helpful, because as I think about eating the brown rice, I suddenly don't want to eat.
Period.
And so coming back to the self-care, you have to find the things that you enjoy and have them in a way that you can indulge them. I used to know a man growing up, and he loved putting together radios. And so downstairs off their family room, he had made, it was, honestly just kind of a walk-in closet, and he had made it into his radio creation station. And that's one of the things he enjoyed. He would just put together radios and take them apart and, fiddle with them and create new things. And, he really, really enjoyed that. That's what you have to find. That would not work that way for me.
Sure.
It would not hold my interest. Photography holds my interest. Art holds my interest. Writing holds my interest. Reading holds my interest.
And for some people, crochet holds their interest.
And for some people, crochet, and they're wonderful at crocheting.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You have to find what works best for you, and then you have to put it in your life in a way that it is going to be a spillway.
So that it releases some of that stress.
And at the same time, you're teaching your kids, this is what helps you manage your stress. One day you're going to grow up, you're going to be an adult, you're going to have a job, and you're going to have a crappy boss at some point. I mean,
haven't we all?
Exactly. It's off of that, haven't we all? Because, bosses rotate in and out generally more than workers do. And you're going to have that boss that drives you nuts, and you have got to have some way that helps you to release that and be able to, continue to do your job.
And so we've got something up here that is different than what we've been talking about previously. You've got the spiritual life element of self-care up here as well. And so that's a different and yet related to all of the other hobbies that we were talking about. Because is going to church a hobby? I mean, not exactly.
Exactly. And I'm glad you bring that up. Research has shown that for counseling, the most effective counseling are those that involve and wrap in the person's spiritual values and beliefs, whatever they are.
And my impression is that the research shows that generally a human being is healthier, happier, and more content when they plug into their spiritual beliefs.
Yes.
So it applies to counseling, in that unique way. And then broadly, your health and your wellness and your mental health and your relationships and your communication, everything is better when you're tuning into, a part of life that is kind of outside of yourself.
Exactly. And so as a part of your self-care, how are you being able to tap into what you spiritually believe? There's no reason that should not be a part of your self-care, because it is a part of you and is a part of what fuels who you are. And so whereas going to church or the synagogue or the mosque may be a part of that routine, what do you do throughout the week that also involves that and that also feeds who you are and helps you on that plane?
Right. Is that midweek spiritual events like a Bible study or whatever group you would get together with? Is that your personal devotional time of reading and prayer? Right. So
a mass, a teaching series that you may connect with, over the internet, over the radio, books that you may, dip into daily or weekly, like we would, a Tom Clancy, novel, or any, an Anne Rule novel, or any of the different types of authors that we enjoy.
So there are ways to add that self-care of spiritual self-care with and without people, right? Because, there's activities and then there's the daily stuff. And then all of those elements are just an additional important part of those things as well. So that your spillway is not flooding the next town, which I think in this metaphor would be actually a lot of things. Your kids, your spouse, your life, your job, your boss, your...
I'm coming from a philosophy myself that every human being has interests and hobbies and spillways. And I have met some people and they've said, I have nothing. And I'm like, yeah, you're a human being, you're alive, right? Not vampire, okay. You're alive and your heart is beating, which means you have something. And so how do we find that? Because, when I was a kid, it was cultivated within the society. Nowadays, it's not cultivated the way that it used to be several decades ago. And as I, was talking with one of my friends, and she was really trying to figure out, what is my interest? And finally, she kind of got to this place where she said, you know what I've always wanted to do? And this is 10 years ago. She said, I have always wanted to just kind of do a blog on movie stars, kind of like an entertainment thing, blog, put it out there, the interesting, facts that I find and kind of have something that people could go to, and this was before, now it's done a lot.
Sure.
But that was something she wanted to pursue. And she began to get, People magazine to just kind of see if that would cultivate any of that.
When you've noticed that, like, you were just touching on it now, but like a lot of the stuff we've talked about has not been go post on social media or go read Instagram or go read Twitter, right? We haven't really been talking about those things because they're kind of not as meaty for your experience as some of these other things.
Right. And actually the research has shown they will create more stress for you.
Oh gosh, yeah, I have that conversation with clients a lot.
And video games, we haven't talked about video games, because video games can be just like social media in a way. They all play on the same reward center of the brain. And there have been, I'm an ex-gamer. And so there were video games that I could come home and, just kind of get into that game and just kind of relax and kind of, see the emotions and the stress kind of, go through the game until I was losing.
Oh, and then all the bad emotions came back.
Oh, gosh. And they doubled or they tripled, and so you have to know that about yourself. And so if I've had a really, really hard, stressful day, I was not going near the video games. Because what the video games would also do is that if I went and go, all right, let's just go read a book, I would sit down to read a book and my brain is going, where's the gold? Where's the experience? Where's the reward? Because it's an instant gratification piece that's now coming over to a book, which takes time.
There's no ding, ding, ding,
Right.
ding, ding in a book.
In a book.
Yeah.
And it would take several days for that to kind of wear off. So you have to know what it is, and how things are going to affect you and know which ones to engage in. If I came home and I was pretty stressed and pretty frustrated and one of my sports teams was playing, it could be a great stress reliever.
Or
If they started to lose, if it looks like they're going to lose, if they're going to lose, and if they lost, that just didn't work. It just, so, you have to know, and I've, there are times where we've all sat down with our sports team and it's like, oh yeah, this is in the bag. And suddenly it's like,
it wasn't.
Did you guys get stolen by aliens, replaced by dummies, and all you're doing is nothing? Can we? I mean, the water boy could throw better, and that's just how sports go. I mean, that's just how life goes.
So we're suggesting that your array of hobbies, you should have a balanced diet.
Yep.
And some of those things we just touched on, social media and video games and sometimes sports, are maybe more like popcorn, right? And
Could
you
be.
should consume a steady diet of popcorn.
They may be, some of the things we just mentioned may be more of a maintenance than they are, okay, this has been a really tough moment. I need something that's really going to help me, and really going to vent that out.
Sure.
I know how 50 First Dates is going to end. I know how it's going to go. It's not going to be different. Whereas I don't know when, the Dodgers play, you know.
What the outcome.
Right. What the outcome's going to be. I mean, those are good examples.
But I can just see your investment in that hobby that you have, and being able to make stupid jokes about it is positive.
It's positive,
right?
And
I can make
enjoyable.
stupid jokes about sports ball because that's not my hobby, right? And that's okay.
Exactly. And it's and that's the thing, is that a friendship, a relationship is another one of these pieces that is a positive coping skill and a positive spillway. You can make those types of jokes and cracks, and it's not at all going to get, under my skin or be offensive or anything like that because of the relationship that we have. And I just will add that when I do wear a Dodgers cap, and we're here in Oregon, and I have, several different sports teams and several different, caps, but it's the Dodgers that get absolute strangers to stop and go, hey, dude, we had a hard year. Or man, wasn't that great?
There's a connection.
There is a
to
connection
that team,
to sports ball, as you call it, and to that team that it's amazing.
Right, and thank goodness for those things.
Right? I think so.
You've been listening to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, we would encourage you to visit our website at empoweringchoices.community. For a small monthly fee, we offer a website full of parenting courses and resources. You also have the ability to connect with parents going through the same struggles you are in a safe and private environment. Every time you purchase a membership to our site, we give away a membership to a parent in financial need. Help yourself become a better parent while helping others gain access to important parenting materials by supporting our podcast. Check us out at empoweringchoices.community or in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. We'll see you on our next episode.